All right, mate. I'm reconnecting with me old mate, scooterbet.com.au, one of the preeminent consultants in the racing game and a punting form loyalist. Today, we are going to debunk the punting form guide, which is something that you've had sort of been championing for a long time, a revamped form guide, something that's been crying out for evolution. So thank you, mate. Welcome.
Yeah, great to be here. It's a pretty easy thing to talk about punting form. The company itself, they're all punters, and even the punters that subscribe to the database in the sectional pro form and buy the raw data themselves. They're the most profitable punters in the industry, and you can see it. There's someone on Twitter called Tipstalker, and the top 5 people that tip on there regularly are all punting form users. And the biggest syndicates in the world buy the raw data for punting form. So I guess the work done with Betfair in the last couple of months to produce this new form guide, which is an evolution of the feature race report, is great for just, I guess, the entry-level punter and people that want to see under the bonnet of, I guess, the power of what the puntingform.com.au database can do. So, yeah, it's great to be able to deliver a new product to the market. And yeah, I think I tweeted the other day that it makes best bets look like Spot the Dog. So it's something for a more serious punter, but the Betfair punters have usually a lot sharper, or they're looking for something beyond the obvious. And I think this product is exactly that. So a big well done to Shane Baker and Heath and the team at Punting Form and the VIP team that have been working hard to get this project up and going. I think the result's fantastic.
Completely agree. Yeah, no, it's an evolutionary product. And our job today is to sort of demystify, because it can be intimidating, all that data in front, the benchmark stuff, and then all of the detail. It's best in market by far. And so if we can just sort of, make this a bit more accessible to your average punter, particularly coming up for Carnival Week, which we're shooting this before in 2020, hopefully, we can demystify some stuff and really, help people show them. We'll have some screen overlays in a second that show some of the data that we're trying to read, just so you can read it with a little bit more confidence and not be so overwhelmed. That's our job today. So I've got the Caulfield report in front of me from the week or so ago. Can you talk me through the meeting report and just sort of, the top line data that you look at when you're opening that up?
Okay, so from top left, we've got the track map with all the starting positions. It'll tell you where the chutes are. And we've done a weather report, the track condition, and then some small subjective commentary around that. You've got the 1 to 10 races, what distance, prize money, the class level, and then you've got the required benchmarks needed for this class of race. So this tells you, given the high minus figures, that it's a pretty strong day of racing. So when you're talking about benchmarks, if you have a 00, that means a par time. So that's all the races, for example, held. If we look at the Caulfield sprint, over 1,000 metres at Caulfield, how fast do you need to be to win a Group 2? So the figure there is minus 12.5, and then the average is a minus 7.8 faster than benchmark to the 600, and then to come home minus 4.7 lengths. So the combined figures to the 200, to the 600 and the last 600 is 12.5. So you need a really fast horse on average to hit that figure. The benchmarks can often find talent early in younger horses. So if you have a horse that blisters the clock, you'll find that they'll run a big minus figure, either in their first 600 or their last 600, depending on what their pattern is. So benchmarks is a par time, as most people call them, but that's something that has been used heavily in the feature race reports to measure the overall strength and to try and transfer different class levels across different tracks, because there's all sorts of horses coming from different tracks and different form lines. And I guess the benchmark system helps you notify what sort of strength the horse you're dealing with. If you look further down the page, you can have a look at the Caulfield barrier versus historical run style with the rail true. And what we're introducing for the first time is an A to E figure. And this measures the performance against the market price. So below 1 is performing below expectation, and above 1 is performing above expectation. So you want to be looking for green numbers here. And so this is all based on profit on turnover with proportional staking. So we're looking at what the market does at SP based on the best of the New South Wales tote price and Betfair SP. So you're always going to be better off with the Betfair starting price on more occasions than not. So once you have a horse that you can see in green figures, and this also relates to jockeys and trainers as well, but looking at the barrier positions here, this tells me that when horses have drawn out further than barrier 8, that the market underbets them. So there is value in taking horses that push forward and that are drawn from barrier 8 plus. The market underrates them. And then contrary to that, horses that have drawn barriers 1 to 3 are overbet by the market. And that's when you can see the red figures in there. So horses that roll forward and have got barriers 1, 2, and 3, they're horses that you may want to stay away from, or there's less value with that runner. So they're obviously well found. If you go further down, you can see the Caulfield lanes from the inside fence versus the rail positions. So you've got rail true and then all rail positions. And then again, you can see some green figures around lane 2 and sort of break even figures around lanes 3 and lane 7. If you look at all rail positions, you can see, yeah, again, lane 2 is a big advantage. And then for when the fence would be out, you can see that there's a slight level of profitability when horses are right out wide. And I could probably say when the rail's probably at the 12 position, all of a sudden horses are running really wide on a boggy day, you might get some sort of advantage out there. But again, the sample size is much smaller there, but you can see that the guts of the data is around the sort of 1 to 7 lanes, but there's clearly an advantage, or the market underestimates the power of sort of lane 2 or Caulfield if you can find horses that are going to finish along there. If you look at the trainer and jockeys with the A to E figure, this is something that I've noticed a lot in the last couple of months. There's been a jockey called Jess Eaton over at Adelaide. She's been undervalued by the market. You can see Aidan O'Brien qualifies as a trainer that's undervalued by the market. When his horses come to Australia, they're certainly ready to run instantly. Archie Alexander's got some strong figures. You've got Philip Stokes and Clinton McDonald, who have got a deeper data set. They're still just above average there in terms of their A to E figure. And then you can see who's got the strongest figures on the profit and turnover. And so the last 100 runners, for example, Clinton McDonald hasn't had as good of a performance. And once you see the figures in red, they're really telling, especially in the recent data. I think it's a great way to find jockeys that are running hot or sort of otherwise. If you look down at the jockeys, it looks like Jamie Carr, Zara, and Bowman are all performing quite strongly against market expectation. So they may have a couple of poor rides, but we're clearly looking at what's happening at the SP prices. So are they being overbet or underbet? And that's how I always look at the A to E figure. So that's something new for punters that Punting Form data can provide based on the database.
So, all right. So we're going to look at a specific example, which was the Caulfield Cup. Obviously, we've picked something that's cherry ripe, and the guys have picked the eyes out of this were very elegant. But we'll give some context as to how they found her, and I'll just let you expand on the data that you could have seen that was available on race day before the race. So if you can just talk us through the Caulfield Cup, Nick.
So the top half of the page looks like the old feature race reports. The information there is pretty basic. The last start performances, the runner, the trainer, the jockey, how many days between runs, what barrier they're going to jump from, which race that they're coming from. You'll see with the international runners, their information is blank. You got the benchmarks from their last start over on the right-hand side, the 2 to 600, the final 600 and their overall figure. And then you've got the PB within the last 2 years. Again, that's often a good indicator of horses that run really well at specific tracks. I often find lots of winners out of the 1200 metre Flemington starting distance, for example. It's a great horses for courses track. But again, we've got some subjective opinion with a race comment, and that's used by someone who's been trained to look at the Punting Form database. And so they've written in their race comment. They've found very elegant here. They've liked the fact that there's been some sting out of the track when the rains come. And if you look at the 4 tables there with the last start benchmark, she ranks quite highly. So she's coming from a really strongly run race, very elegant, with a high minus figure of 10.7. the peak, top 4 peak benchmarks in the last 2 years. You can see a horse like Vow and Declares hit the board at a really high level. Prince of Varana's run really strongly in Melbourne Cups. Finch has obviously performed really well at Caulfield and was very good in the same race last year. And then if you look at the Punting Form top rated price and the Betfair model, this is, I guess, for punters that don't really want to do the work themselves to coming up with their own price, but trusting, I guess, the statistics that Punting Form weight strongly to come up with a price. So they've rated Very Elegant 480, and Betfair model with the data scientists input have got the Very Elegant price at $4.44. So that would have been an overlay looking at the Betfair SP. And again, there's a subjective speed map done by the Punting Form Pro in the background, and they've mapped Very Elegant in a similar position to where she was. And the blue indicates that she's a back bet. And where you see a pink, that means that the horse is more likely to qualify as a lay bet, and there's poor value or not much value on that runner. As you can see with Anthony Van Dyke, a lot of professional punters had him mapped forward. He ended up going back. And with the benefit of hindsight, that was probably the difference between winning and losing. The horse was slowly away, but still ran a really big race based on, I guess, the Betfair model's prices, the Punting Form data, and what the market expectation was. And if you scroll down slightly to that race runner, again, you can see the information around Aidan O'Brien, how he's probably under bet against market expectations. And if you follow a lot of his horses and stake them proportionately, there's probably an edge in backing his horses more often than not. Again, Huey's borderline, very popular jockey. You've got a historical run style there of on pace highlighted in bold. And again, reminded that the Punting Form rated price is $6.70, which is close to the mark there. Also in bold is the race comment from our analysts where applicable, and that'll be drawn awkwardly for Anthony Van Dyke, but has a lot of hype around that runner. So he was heavily fancied. And again, the barrier after scratchings, I think he was allotted 21. He's coming into 17, and that's been his undoing. If we look down to Very Elegant, number 7, the race comment there was flying, maps well, and the wetter the better. Again, the sting was out. Here you can see the AWE for Chris Waller was very close to 1, and then Mark Zara was slightly profitable there at 1.08. They haven't really formed a combination on many occasions, but it hasn't been profitable against the market expectation in the past. Noted back marker, and you can see all the last start performances. So it's a really quick and easy reference to see how she performs. If you go back 5 starts, you can see she won a Group 1 over 2,400 metres on a slow 7 for JMac, and she started around the $2 quote. So all these data points are inputted into the Punting Form rated model. And again, there's been a separate qualification from the Betfair data scientists. So you can always get your rated prices and see what the top of the market is based on the inputs from the data. So again, you've got the subjective speed map if we scroll back up, and some form comments around it, so you can get quick reference points to give you guys access to all the best data that the pro punters use via the puntingform.com.au database. So it's a great tool. It's been a great project with the Betfair team and the Punting Form team, and we think it's the next step from the feature race reports and something that punters will get a lot out of.
Absolutely, yeah. I look forward to it when it hits my inbox a little bit before everyone else on the hub. It's incredible content. I love how accessible it is. The trainer jockey stuff is next level, which I love, trying to find some green numbers there. And then also just the rated prices. Like, I'm happy for the boys to put it on a plate for me and tell me what price they should be, and just follow and do my ratings that way. So it's incredible data. The market leading data, and it's an easy way that we're trying to share with the punter for free. For every big race day. Looking forward to All Cup week, which we've got coming up, and then we'll keep it going through the Ascot Carnival as well, which will be really good viewing each weekend. So make sure you're on the hub. About Friday lunchtime, they should lob, and then they get a freshen up after the scratchings on Saturday morning, and then they get the data, the Betfair data model inputs as well. So if you log on about 11 o'clock on a Eastern Daylight Savings Time on Saturday morning, it's on a play for you, the most updated, best best form guide, best sort of market tool for free every weekend.
Yeah, I think it's a great tool for lay betting, especially at the death. If punters are keen to sort of lay these really obvious favourites, the A to E around the trainer and the jockey combinations, or if you have a look at the different sort of lanes and how the horses are going to map, I think it's a really new way to think. And although something might be heavily bet on the exchange and look like there's a lot of money for it, once you cross-reference it through the punting form guide with here, I think there's some great lay opportunities. So I'm sure it'll get people thinking differently. So thanks for the opportunity.
Exciting stuff, mate. Thank you for talking us through it. And hopefully people have got a little edge that we've helped them find for the coming weeks of punting. Always better to have a few winners over the carnival, and hopefully the form guide puts that on a plate for people. Thanks, Goody. Really appreciate your time. Appreciate Punting Form, what they're doing, and make sure everyone is subscribed to this YouTube channel and also jumping on the hub every day, definitely, but definitely every Saturday morning when you're going to have a flutter on the ponies.